We are recording, yes.
Okay, let me jump into this then. All right. So there's a lot to show you today. As Bree said, this has been a while, since we've really had a whole lot to talk about with Infor CRM. So we've been kind of a little bit dormant for a while, but I'm happy to say that is changing rapidly. There's been a considerable shift for the CRM people in Scottsdale at the Infor campus there. They have some new leadership, new product management. They have new big budgets, I'm being told. And we're seeing lots of evidence of not only, good things that have already shown up, which I'll show you today, but the roadmap is pretty aggressive. So yeah, we'll be sharing all that with you, as well as showing you what's new in 8.4.04, which is the current release. So a couple of housekeeping things. We have to show this disclaimer that anything I say or show that is about a future release is not a guarantee that those things are going to happen. So we just need to acknowledge the fact that, maybe some of this will make it into the next release or future releases. We just don't know. So we're not committing to that. Okay, so having said that, let me get rolling here with the 8.4.04. That's what we're looking at here, is 8.4.04. One of the first things you'll notice is, this is the web client, of course, and I'll probably get asked this, so I'll answer it now and say the LAN client, although it is still supported and there is an 8.4.04 version of it, pretty much nothing I'm showing you today is accessible or usable in the LAN. They are not really showing any evidence that they're going to be doing anything in the LAN client. Again, still supported, still available, but none of this functionality I'll show today is in that LAN client. Now, one of the first things you'll notice is some slight changes in the user interface. I kind of call these ghost icons, for lack of a better term. So they've sort of uncluttered or undetailed what these little icons are. You'll notice a slightly different color scheme, this kind of royal blue. These icons are just little white outlines. They do have little pop-up help, I guess that it's called hover help, that shows you what's going to happen if you push the button. So that's good. So I think they're just trying to modernize the interface and make it a little cleaner again. And I think it's great, I guess. I like it. I guess everybody has their own opinion. I do have to tell you a funny story before we go on. They've got this save icon here, and the story is a little boy was at his computer and his dad was sort of helping him do something on the computer. They were playing around with it. And just to get his son's reaction, the father took out a 3.5-inch floppy disk out of the drawer. Anybody old enough to remember what a floppy disk was? Well, that's what this is a picture of. And so the little boy said to his dad, "Oh, cool, Dad, you 3D printed a save button." Anyway, there's my lame joke of the day. Okay, so what we're going to start with is activities, because that's where a lot of the changes have occurred in how activities work. So let's jump over into the activities screen and let's open up this breakfast meeting. So this is different. So in this lower right section, we have a new functionality called associations. So in the previous versions, you could link it to an account or a contact and a ticket or an opportunity, but that was it. And this screen was not easily modified. There was a lot of compiled code that made up these activity screens in Infor, so it was kind of clunky and cumbersome to modify it. But what a lot of customers wanted was the ability to associate an activity to other things in CRM rather than just those four. So basically, they've given you that capability. You'll notice this breakfast meeting is associated to tickets and a sales order and an account and a lead and another contact and another lead. Probably not very real world, but I just wanted to show you that you can link these to as many different entities, as many different times as you want to. So this could become, a pretty big list. So we do this by clicking on the association dropdown, and this is going to show you all of your main entities within CRM. And it's worth noting too that if you have custom entities, maybe you've got a custom area for projects or something like that, that too is going to be available in this dropdown to link to. So once you pick, one of these items, let's say it's a quote, now if you hit the plus sign, you have your standard quote lookup with all the different operators and things in here, and you can search and say, well, I want it to be linked to this quote, and it'll add that quote to the linkage of this particular activity. Something else that's a little bit different and maybe even I'll say slightly confusing is the way they changed the attendees tab. So obviously associations allows you to link it to other records in CRM, record types. Attendees is the people, and the attendees can be either a lead, so you can click on add a lead and search for a lead record, or you can add a contact and it's going to search the contacts table to allow you to link other people to it. But then you have this other plus sign, which I don't really know how to explain how it works, but I think we sort of have it figured out. It's kind of like a wild card, meaning it's going to look for leads and contacts at the same time, and it's going to look for anything that matches. So you'll notice I don't have a field to tell it where to look or anything like starts with or whatever. So if I go Chicago, it's going to find every lead and every contact that has the word Chicago in it somewhere. And what's cool is, I mean, even though the address is not part of this lookup, you're not seeing an address column, it still is finding accounts, or excuse me, contacts and leads that are in the town of Chicago. You can change which columns you see, but it appears to us, we haven't really dug into what's going on under the hood. It appears to us to be sort of like the speed search, where it's again, a wildcard based search. And then you can go Chicago dentist, for example, and it's finding, okay, a guy with a title of dentist and contacts with, Chicago in their title. So it's kind of cool that it allows sort of these wild card searches. Now, as far as we can tell, it's using the and operator, meaning, or I'm sorry, it should be, I should say it's the or operator. So it's not finding just Chicago dentists, it's finding everything with Chicago or dentists in it. So we think there might be an operator, like a something in here that would allow it to do an or an and, but right now we haven't quite figured out how to do that. We'll do a blog post video once we figure it out, because we kind of think it's got to have that capability and it shouldn't always be an or, but it's just another way to find the record you want to add as an attendee to this new activity. Okay, so we'll move on to the new reoccurring activity, what they call fan out. So you'll notice this is actually a brand new activity list view, and I'll kind of explain, well, what does that mean? And here you will see that reoccurring activities are fanned out, and that's what this little circular clock thing is. It's showing you that these phone calls are reoccurring. It's the same call. It's just been scheduled to happen, every couple of days or every day. So that's why you're seeing it fanned out here. In the previous versions, a reoccurring activity only showed on the activity view once, because it didn't actually add the next sequential activity onto your calendar or activity list until you completed the previous one, which is a little odd because it caused things like the Outlook sync and stuff to not work. It wouldn't show all of the occurrences of a reoccurring activity. And so now it does. there's still, it looks like, a limitation as to how many it will show. And I don't really know what the max is, but at least it shows, you know, the next handful or so that are coming up over time. Uh, and I know why Infor probably did this, because if you schedule an activity every day for the next 10 years, well, this would be a ginormous, you know, scrolling list. So they didn't want to overdo it. So they kind of picked this middle ground by saying, okay, well, at least put on the activity table and on your calendar, you know, the handful or so that are coming up. So that's a nice feature. The other thing they did was this entire activity view in previous versions was compiled code. You really couldn't modify it. What you saw is what you got. And it didn't really suit the purpose for a lot of people. It's missing certain functionality they kind of expected and wanted to get used to. So this is now what we call a top level entity. And in Infor speak, it has the same group building and list building capabilities as accounts and contacts and leads and opportunities. So it's a fully functional top level entity, which means that you can have groups and you can add your own groups of activity records. So, okay, I built a group. I only want to see open activities for the administrator. So you can do that. And that's what we're looking at, as a restricted list. And if you right click and click edit the group, you get the normal group builder that everybody's used to, where you can apply the conditions, just like every other entity. And you can base that group builder condition, you know, on any field that's available in that activity table or any tables joined to the activity. So I really like that. You can build your own custom groups. You can do things like promote this to a dashboard now. So maybe you've got today's activities that you built and it's got a tab, but you really want to see that on the dashboard. You can do that. You can also save records as a group now. So it'll create a brand new tab based on the, you know, activities you pick. Maybe I want, you know, that one and that one and that one, and then save it as a group, and you're going to end up with a you know, group with three records in it. And again, that's the same kind of behavior you would expect with all the other top level entities. Again, pretty cool stuff. I like that. Everybody seems to like it. All right, so we're moving on from activities. But before we do that, I want to talk about mobile 4.2. And that came out just before 8.4.04. So the 4.2 mobile client has some extra functionality built into it now to support that multi-attendee and multi-association functionality that we saw in the web client. It's got some restrictions to it, but in this first release, 4.2, and by the way, this 4.2 is compatible all the way back to, I think it's 8.3. So you don't have to be an 8.4.04 to get the 4.2 mobile client, but to take advantage of this new attendees and associations, you'd have to be an 8.4.04. So we played around with that breakfast meeting, and there are 3 attendees, and here they are. And then it's associated to a whole bunch of stuff: tickets, sales orders, several accounts and contacts, and a lead. So this is showing you and representing for you on your mobile device all those linkages, attendees, and associations we created in that web client. Unfortunately, the limitation is we can't modify or edit these in the web yet. You see them, but you can't create these multi-attendee records in the mobile client yet, but that's coming. They're working on the next generation right now. So that's all good. So that's what's new in 4.2 of the mobile client. You'll notice it's got similar, again, I'll call them ghost sort of icons built into it, just like we saw in the new web client. Okay, so we're going to move on to workflows. Well, that's a big one because, you know, people want workflows today. They want things to happen for them automatically and processes running that help the users within CRM get more work done through some automation. So Infor has finally added a workflow engine into the CRM system. And I'll kind of go through, well, what does that mean? So when we go into the administrator, it's kind of buried in here, which is a little strange. You got to go into administration and integrations, and then workflow. CRM workflow is one of the uh, integrations that's available in CRM. I'm kind of backing up here. So now we're looking at all the integrations, and I selected workflow as the one I want to work on. And so this again is a work in progress, but it shows a lot of evidence again that Infor is really working hard to make this tool better. So what you're seeing here is an opportunity workflow that is going to send out an alert, an email alert. So what the way that looks is you can open up this opportunity workflow. You see it's tied to opportunities, this particular workflow we're building here. And we're going to call it opportunity stage advancement because that's really what it's doing, is it's alerting people that an opportunity has transitioned from its previous stage to a new stage. So that's what we're seeing here is I've actually got it set to send out 2 different emails. One of them, it's going to send an email when any opportunity reaches the demo stage, and then another email when it is closed. So this one has 2 different email alerts that make up the entire workflow for what we're asking this particular workflow to do. And let's dig a little bit into how you do that. So we'll edit the first one, and I made it logical and saying it's, the demo stage has been reached, email. And we're tying it to that first step in my multi-step workflow. I've activated it, and the email that gets sent out is generated down here below. So this is a rich text formatable block of email text. You can also insert a property, which is a merge field. So you'll notice it has the account name is going to merge into the email body, and the sales potential, which is a dollar amount, is going to be mail merged into this, a description. And the way I got those there is by inserting a property. So every one-to-one field that's related to the opportunity table through a join or directly is available to be used as a merge field to insert data into a workflow email. However, in the application architect, there is a new property. It's a checkbox that says include in workflow. So by default, I think a lot of the fields are already included, able to be included in a workflow. But if there are like new fields or custom fields you created, to get them to show up in this dropdown, you'll have to go into the application architect and check the box for the opportunity entity here to say, yes, included in the dropdown of selectable fields that I can merge into. Just a little detail. Anyway, so the next tab is, well, who should get the email when an opportunity reaches the demo stage? By default, you can pick the account manager and the account owner. You can address it to one or more emails. You can just put a comma in here and add other emails, CC, BCC. So this is who's going to get the email anytime an opportunity is transitioning to the demo stage. And this is what the email is going to say that they're going to get. So that's the current state of the built-in workflow. This is all it does, and I'm not picking on it. It sends email alerts. And a lot of you have third-party tools that are kind of doing this already. So now you don't have to maintain some other thing to get email alerts to be sent out. They are planning to add other functions to the workflow, like approvals and the ability to update data, the ability to prompt the user for some kind of an input as a workflow is fired throughout here. So we're expecting more of those to come, and I'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the 8.5 part of the presentation. So I think this is a great start. I'm happy it's here. And I'll just throw out one other thing, is those customers that have the Infor operating system or iOS, it too has a workflow engine that can interact with CRM. But all of this that I'm showing you today doesn't need iOS. It's completely self-contained within CRM, which is great. Okay, next we're going to show the group builder enhancements, and there's a couple of cool things in here. So we'll go back to an account and we'll right click and edit a group. So they removed the functionality from the system, which were called subqueries. So you could have conditions in here, as everybody knows on the call. You can, grab fields and drag them down here. But they also supported what were called subqueries in previous versions, and they're no longer supporting subqueries. So in place of that, they're putting in these enhancements, which are pre-built subqueries, I guess I'll call them. So the way that works is, if we go to an account, for example, and we want to look at the create date, we want that to be one of the conditions. Well, maybe I only want to see accounts that were created in the last 30 days or whatever. You had to write a subquery to do that in the previous version. But now if you use a literal value, you're going to see a list of pre-built subqueries that you can grab. So for the date field, for example, it's pretty logical. There's a lot to choose from here, and you can actually add more in the application architect. You can add more predefined subqueries and then use those within the query builder. So you could say something like within the last X number of months, okay, 5 months, and it basically applies that subquery in the background for you. So let's do another one here. We'll say, we'll drag down to vision, and if we say use literal value, there are these are just some other pre-built subqueries that aren't related to a date. They're just related to text fields. And again, these might not be terribly logical, but you can build your own and build more of these to make these available to your users and system administrators who like to build groups that need to have a subquery. So you can add more Infor through in a few to help kind of get you started. We don't have a lot of customers that use subqueries, but I think Infor did a nice job of sort of making that functionality better. Okay, so that sort of covers 8.4.04 and what's new. We do have a couple of videos, at least one that I know of, that covers forecasts and quotas, which was part of 8.4.03. So I won't take up too much time talking about this. But if you're interested in this new functionality that came out in 8.4.03, visit our website and search for forecast. And there's a nice video out there that explains how to do quotas for your users, sales quotas, and how to build forecasts and fulfill those pipelines. Another feature everybody's wanting and has asked for, so I'm glad it's there. So that's in 8.4.03, and of course in 8.4.04. I'm getting a lot of numbers in my head. Got to keep it straight. So the next thing we're going to talk about, what's next? So we're going to look at the next release, which is due in January of 2021, is 8.5. So they've decided not to stay with the 8.4.04 numbering and move to 8.5. And they have rewritten the entire dashboard area. It was getting kind of old and outdated, and it's kind of limited in what you could do. Not to mention the fact that this little sales funnel chart, required Flash. So you'd constantly get this warning, you got to have Flash, and you really want to install Flash because it's dangerous and all that. So they've rewritten the whole dashboard area, at least that's what they're planning. So they wanted to show us a little sneak peek of, well, what does it look like? So they've got finally have what are real KPIs now, little speedometers and things that show you, okay, here's what you're doing, but here's how you're trending. And so that's what the down means, is we're probably going in the wrong direction. So new funnel chart, not powered by Flash, new pie charts, bar charts, and KPIs. And they can also now include multiple data sources, so you can mix and match different data from different entities in the same KPI or dashboard, which is cool. So here's just another view of the new dashboards. Again, multi-data sources for line and bar charts. So you can overlay data from a different entity onto the main entity, the ability to zoom in, which is nice, and it's responsive, so it should react to different screen resolutions without getting all weird and funky like the current one does. And now we'll kind of get into the longer term. So this is their 12-month roadmap looking forward. They're planning to continue to improve the UI and modernize it, schedule auto follow-ups for quotes that are about to expire, the new dashboards and KPIs, we talked about that, speed search enhancements. And here's another biggie, this mail merge, as you know, only works with IE because it uses ActiveX to power the mail merge interface. That's pretty old school stuff these days. Then throw on top of that the fact that Microsoft announced they're going to stop supporting it next year, IE altogether. So everybody's asking us, well, what are we supposed to do about mail merge? Well, they're rewriting all that to be, server side code rather than client side. So expect a brand new mail merge engine coming soon, which is about time, to be honest with you. It's sort of past due. So I'm glad they're focusing on that. We're going to have images for accounts and contacts. And this is another big one we get asked about a lot, because in the LAN client, when you're in the calendar view, you got to see your tasks for the day, even if they weren't calendar tasks, maybe they were untimed or to-dos and whatnot. Those now show, or are going to show, on the web calendar view. So it's going to look and work more like what the LAN client does. And again, I know people are, they want that, so they're going to get it. They're also adding a projects module. Don't know anything about it yet, but it sounds intriguing. I'm assuming it's a project management module, but we don't know. This is one I like too, the ability to quick add an account from a ticket or an opportunity, etc. A lot of times somebody will call you and say, I'm interested in some of your stuff. Well, hold on, I got to go create your account record first, and then I'll come back and build an opportunity, keep holding. Well, now right from a ticket or an opportunity and other entities, you can do a quick add. Little mini screen will pop up, I'm assuming, to allow you to add a brand new account and then carry on with creating your ticket and opportunity. Lead conversion tracking, also a sore subject for a lot of our customers. Leads are really kind of their own little island of data and functionality in Infor CRM. And it sounds like they're planning to sort of make the conversion process, which is problematic in a lot of cases, better. So I hope that's what we're going to see. Support for external reporting platforms. They've got Burst, but hopefully they'll have more open capabilities to maybe work with some of the other good reporting tools out there, like Tableau and some of the others, but I don't know. I like the fact that MS Teams is going to be integrated. I think that's pretty cool. Technology, they continue to work on performance improvements. This is another absolutely huge one, is upgrade safe extensibility. So starting in 8.5, that's the first release that's going to start to segment away from a typical upgrade project. They're going to move customizations into their own layer that's applied on top of the out of the box code. So up till now, and until this comes out, it's we talk about an upgrade. Well, that's a substantial project, because we always have to retrofit customizations, and you got to get a developer involved, and you have to try to make it work in the new versions, and it can get expensive. So we're kind of relieved for our customers to see that they finally have some solid plans to isolate customizations away from the core code, fulfilling the promise of being upgrade safe. What does that mean? Don't know. They talk a lot about it. Hopefully they've got a solid tech plan to make that actually work. We don't know how they're going to do it, but hopefully that in fact will happen. And they're planning to automate some of the post-provisioning steps. And for our integration customers that are using, Ion, they're going to automate the bot updates as well. Job manager enhancements, hopefully it's going to become multi-threaded and sort of self-healing and self-recovering, because that can be, a bugger to keep the job manager running. So that's cool. Unified customization, love it. You can build customizations for the desktop and the mobile in the application architect, where now you have to write code in HTML5 editors to modify the mobile, and that's challenging for most of our customers. Attachment folder management enhancements, that sounds great. And Infor document management integration for attachments. That's the ability to have, again, for our Infor OS customers, to use Infor's document management solution to store file attachments for CRM records. I think that's another important update that's coming. Okay, so I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm looking at my list. They keep talking about performance improvements. We have very few complaints these days about the performance. 8.4.04 is very fast. It's definitely approaching the LAN client. We just don't get complaints about performance like we used to in some of the 8.0, 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3 releases. 8.4 is pretty quick and pretty competitive as far as just navigating around. They're going to add rich text editing to the activity notes like we saw in that workflow email editor thing. I think that's cool. They're going to add security to speed search. Right now, speed search lets you find and open documents you shouldn't have access to. So hopefully nobody's shocked by that, but it is a loophole in their security model that allows people to get to data they normally wouldn't have access to. Okay, well, Brianna, that is a wrap for me. That's everything I was hoping to show. So I'm wondering now if there are any questions. I don't have any more jokes, so scratch that.
Thank you, Scott. That was very educational. It's great to see a roadmap again for Infor CRM. Right now, I don't show any questions.
Okay.
However, we will give, 30 seconds, see if anything pops up before we close it down. And I just want to mention, we are recording this. So if you would like to see it again or share it with somebody who was unable to attend today, we will be putting it up on customerfx.com. If you think of any questions after the conclusion of today's webinar and you would like to get those answered, you could email Scott or myself if you have our email addresses, or you can simply go to customerfx.com, click the Contact Us button, and Scott and I will be notified if a question comes in that way.
I do see one, Bree.
Yep.
From our friend. Contact processes are being replaced by that workflow I showed you. So that intention of that workflow is to replace what we know today as contact processes. So once they add the ability to have that workflow engine schedule activities, send out alerts, which it does today, of course, do things like approvals for quotes and things that were discounted too heavily or whatever needs an approval. So that's all part of this. That is their plan to finally replace the non-functional contact processes that are in the system today with this new technology that they're using in the CRM workflow. So we're really optimistic we'll see a lot of that, in the first half of next year. Hopefully, that is coming. That's all I saw. Thanks everyone for attending.
Scott,
Yeah.
we had one more pop up.
Sure.
And the question is just to confirm, no burst integration with CRM.
There's no native burst integration. There was talk about that, and for some reason they shelved it. I don't know why. But you can integrate Burst with Infor CRM. We have customers that do it. You have to be able to access the database. There's a number of methods to do that, through the SData API and so forth. But Infor doesn't have a native Burst integration for CRM, unfortunately. And I don't think there's any plans to do that yet, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just not, check the box and you're integrated with CRM. It's going to take some work to figure out the best method to connect the database to Burst so that Burst can consume CRM data. So it is possible, just not easy.
Thanks,
There
Scott.
you go. Yeah,
And that is it. That's all we have.
very good. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Appreciate you attending.
Bye.
Bye-bye.